Sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, but you got to give yourself that opportunity. I mean, it's about the people you know, the connections you make, and if you're not, when you're pursuing a goal, you're not giving yourself every opportunity that you have, then you're not giving yourself the best shot.
No rain.
Hello and welcome to the Naren Agarwal Show, friends. Today's episode is going to be one that shows you how you can truly do all the things that you love. Because today we have on board Mr. Joe Schroeder. Joe is a buddy of mine, but more importantly, he is in the United States National Rugby team. Yes, you got that right. In the United States, he is in the National Rugby team. Also, he is a civil engineer, and he still continues doing that civil engineering job, and he's got a master's degree in it. So he's somebody who's truly dedicated himself to a sport, at the same time has not left academics and the field of professional working. So I'm truly delighted to have him on board and hear his story and how he does it all. So welcoming Mr. Joe Schroeder on board. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm good, Naren. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted. Thanks for joining us. I know you got a busy schedule, but so happy to have you on board.
Yeah, no
Joe,
problem.
You're in the National United States Rugby team. That means you're one of the top athletes in the US. How does that feel? How does that feel to be on the national team of your country?
I think it's definitely a lot of kids' dreams growing up is to play at the highest level they can. And especially representing, being able to represent your country is just something that can't really be explained. It's hard to, put into words. So it's awesome. It's a dream come true. It's childhood dreams, kind of all balled together. So it's an amazing experience. And, especially my story, I'm just fortunate enough to be on the team, and just whatever role I can play, I want to do that. So yeah, it's awesome.
That's amazing. So I know rugby has two formats, 7s and 15s, and this is the 7s team that you're a part of. So there's 7 players on the team. Now here's my question. In your years of playing rugby, how important is communication when it comes to playing together with a team and winning games? And I mean communication not only on the field, but outside the field.
Yeah, communication is key, and that's just the truth of the matter. We spend a lot of time. We've actually done workshops where we're working on communication with ourselves within the team to kind of narrow down what's the best way to communicate on the field and off the field. Most importantly, on the field, because in 7s they're shorter games, so each moment is a bit more high pressure. You don't have as much time, in a game to make a comeback or anything like that. Everything is, one of my coaches always says 7s is unforgiving, and it really is. And it can be any team's day. But something that helps with that is communication. And so, like I said, we constantly work on that. We come up with phrases. We got a whole page full of just shortened, phrases we use that we'll use on the pitch that everyone understands, and just so we can get our verbiage across so people understand us more. So we've spent quite some time on communication, and that's one of the biggest things that's going to take you, all the way through a 7s tournament.
That's amazing. I mean, it's almost like a code on the field. That sounds pretty cool. Like you have this internal code that you follow, and everybody understands that.
Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome. Joe, talking about rugby, tell us what rugby is. A lot of people don't exactly know what rugby is, especially I know a lot of folks in the US. People internationally think it's kind of like American football. What is rugby as a sport? How do you describe it to people?
Yeah, the best way I kind of use to describe it is just it's a mix between soccer and football. And honestly, the ball is like you take a soccer ball and a rugby or a football and you just smash it together. That's what it kind of looks like. It's just like a kind of a bigger egg-shaped football, but you can only pass the ball backwards. but you can kick it forwards. So it's got, so, and you can do this at any time. The big thing about rugby is unlike football, play just continues when you get tackled. So just because you get tackled doesn't mean there's a stoppage of play. It means basically that's where the line of scrimmage is set, per se, and then you can toss the ball laterally or backwards. But there's no blocking or anything like that. It's just it's a cool game. You got to kind of be able to express yourself because it's opposite thinking. You got to pass a ball backwards to go forwards. So you're always looking for space. It's the big thing is on the rugby pitches, find the space, and then that's where you got to attack. So just where we get tackled or something, we'll end up passing the ball maybe 10 meters backwards to go 20, 30 meters forwards. And that's what we're trying to do. Now on defense, you're trying to do just the opposite. You're trying to keep pushing them back. But it's a fun game. Most people end up loving it. You ever come out and try it, and you can play at any levels. I mean, in the U.S. here, we have men's clubs that go up to, I've played with 50-year-olds on the pitch. They're still playing, and it's rugby. It's full contact. There's no pads, and that's something I think draws people. I really like that as well. Just the fact that there's no pads. It's kind of like when we were kids growing up. We used to throw the football around and kind of just play just backyard football, and it is a little bit of backyard football. Just tackle the person with the ball, and so it's in that aspect. It's a lot of fun, and it's just a real it's a sport I really enjoy.
Wow. So it's pretty cool. I think the comparison you said, it's kind of like soccer and American football mixed together. That makes rugby. Yeah. What I find really cool about rugby, what you said, is passing backwards, because it's almost like a life lesson. Sometimes in life, to go forward, you got to pass the buck to somebody going backwards. And it shows, there are quotes that say the lion takes 2 steps backwards to take a leap forward. And rugby really brings that forward to me. Like, that's life. To move forward, sometimes you got to pass the buck, go backwards, and then keep going together. So I think it really brings a great analogy to life lessons for me. Thanks for sharing that, Joe.
Yeah.
Rugby is a very rough sport. There's no doubt about that, right? It's probably one of the roughest sports out there because you don't have pads. You really tackle people. What are some kinds of injuries that you've seen and that's blown your mind?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of injuries. Let's see. I guess I could start with myself. I've dislocated my shoulder, and tore my labrum rotator cuff, so I had to get that fixed. I'm coming back from a broken thumb. That's not as serious, but I've broken a nose, dislocated another finger. So I've had all sorts of injuries. I've seen some smashed faces. I remember freshman year of high school, there was this one guy on my team who, whenever he got the ball, someone was going down. Someone was going down, and he caused all kinds of havoc for the other team. So, all kinds of stitches. I've seen broken bones, unfortunately. There are some concussions. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, I've seen a lot, and I've had a fair share happen to me. And in regards to injury comparisons with other sports, there's not actually a ton more injuries in rugby compared to like a football, and that's because it's kind of because you don't have pads on you, you're a bit more cognizant of that, and we have to tackle different than a football player. We have to do things a little differently. So we put our head behind the legs, and so we're a bit more aware. So I think the injuries are actually about, even with football, because with football you have the pads on, you have that false sense of protection. And then football, again, you're hitting your head a lot more. In rugby, we're all about protecting the head. So yeah, you definitely see all kinds of injuries, and that's part of the sport. That's part of any sport really.
Correct. Wow, I really like how you focus on, like, in rugby, people get more cognizant because they don't have pads. So it's almost like the human nature comes out in you. Yeah, you're playing a sport, but at the same time, you're more conscious of how you're moving and how you're letting anybody else move. What's more important in rugby? Is it being big or is it being agile? Because I know those are kind of, on the opposite spectrum in some sense. If you're very tiny, you can be very agile. But if you're really big, then your agility is stopped. But both are important. So how do you balance that, and what's more important according to you?
That's a great question. The cool thing about rugby is actually you get to use both those types of people. More in 15s. So in 15s you have forwards and backs, and so the forwards are usually the bigger, meatier individuals because they're in the scrum. And I'm speaking more in 15s here. And then the backs are the quicker, agile guys. So your back, the forwards are kind of the guys doing more of the dirty work, the back usually, and then the backs are usually the faster, flauntier guys, doing the quick things, usually scoring tries more often and whatnot. Now in sevens, you only have 3 forwards and then 4 backs. And sevens in general, you just have to be a more agile player because it's the same size pitch as the 15s pitch. So there's a lot more space to cover. So I'm like a taller, kind of bigger guy for sevens. I'm a forward. And so my big struggle is keeping up with the fast guys. And so I have to be able to guard those fast guys. And we can use each other. So I have a guy on my inside, usually a guy on my outside, and then we cover them together. Or, you use the sideline as an eighth defender, as another defender. But you got to come up with ways to be able to guard those fast guys, and so they don't run around you every time or cut back in. So sevens is definitely the more agile, quicker, faster-paced version of the sport.
Awesome. So, Joe, how did you get into rugby? How did you get into it?
My older brothers played. My older brothers played in high school, so I knew when I got to high school, I was always going to give it a go. So watching their games, I knew I'd want to give it a try. Yeah, played it all through high school. Loved it.
Wow. So, okay, you got into rugby that way, but then how did you get into the national team? Because that sounds like a journey, right? How did that happen? How does that happen?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I played in high school, and I played for a really good school. We had quite a bit of success in winning state championships. We won a national championship my senior year. But my focus for college was engineering, so I didn't even think about really consider playing rugby in college. So I didn't play in college, and it wasn't until after I picked up my first job in Columbus, Ohio. I remember going to a rugby game, and I was like, oh man, I need to get back in this. I can still join a men's club. So I joined a men's club, and I started training with an academy, and then that's how I ended up getting noticed. So I was training with this academy team and spending my mornings there and then going to work. And I trained with them for like 3 to 5 months, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to break. But my buddy, who was the coach, was kind of like, hey, we have the assistant coach of the national team coming in tomorrow. Can you come in to get our numbers up? We just want to have a lot of people for him so he can, because he's doing like a tour and just coaching around different the U.S. And so I went to that. I decided to show up again, and he was there, and then that's what started the conversation. He came up to me after the practice. He was like, hey, I like your size. Like, you ever play sevens? And I hadn't really played sevens at that point. I mainly just played 15s. So then I started looking into sevens, and then that introduction there is what kind of got me an invite to the initial camp. Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever imagine, like, when you were working, when you were going through college, that you would ever be playing for nationally?
So in high school, when rugby was a bit, more on my mind, the goal is USA Eagle, be an Eagle, and people talked about that. We had some guys on our team who would train with the All American teams and whatnot, but that kind of went away from me. And yeah, when I got back into it, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking, try to get myself in top shape and play, try to get back into it where I'm playing as well as I can. But I'll tell you this, I wasn't thinking about playing for the national sevens team. No.
That is an amazing story, Joe. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story. That you just get noticed by the assistant coach of the national team, and then he looks at you and he picks you up. But what's most important, what you said over there, what I learned is that you showed up. I mean, so much of life is just showing up, and so many times we don't show up because we have excuses and we think this and that. But
Yeah.
you deserve it because you showed up, and only because you showed up, you got recognized, and life opened up that avenue. So many of us set goals, but we don't show up when life gives us that opportunity. So kudos to
I
you
think
for
that's
doing that.
yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, but you got to give yourself that opportunity. I mean, it's about the people the connections you make, and if you're not when you're pursuing a goal, you're not giving yourself every opportunity that you have, then you're not giving yourself the best shot. But I think that's a great a way to put it, Naren.
Yeah. And another thing that I loved about what you said was that you were doing it because you wanted to get in top shape and for the love of the game. I think that really changes things, because when you're really doing it for the love of the game and not, you know, like the journey in itself is what you're enjoying, the destination then just comes to you. So that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful what you said. Now, Joe,
Yeah.
I want to get my viewers talking about this and hearing about this. You were a cheerleader, right? So in most parts of the world, people think of cheerleading as a paid job, like somebody pays somebody and they're typically girls, etc. But I know the US has a different sort of a view on cheerleading, and it's a sport in the US. Tell us how you were a cheerleader, what you do, and what is cheerleading. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So like I said, I didn't play rugby in college. I figured, engineering would take up majority of my time. Freshman year, I ended up having more time, and the coach at the time of the cheerleading team sent out like this mass email to the whole school, and I used to tumble a little bit back in high school, and I was like, well, I can do some of this. I'd like to see if I can, stunt, throw people in the air, basically. And so I gave it a go. Yeah, I was just like, you know what, I'll show up. So I showed up to this random tryout, made a fool of myself, but she was she liked what she saw, and yeah, and so I cheered for 4 years, and yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, no, cheerleading's big in college, especially. I mean, I was just at a small D3 school, but yeah, we do all the sport. You cheer at football games and basketball games, and then you do competition. Well, it depends on the school, but we did competition as well. So you get a 2.5 minute routine down, and every year you go, like we were going to Myrtle Beach and competing and doing stuff like that. I really enjoyed cheerleading. It's a funny part of my story. A lot of people look at me like, oh, you're the cheerleader turned rugby player. But I did play rugby first, and then went to cheerleading, and then rugby. But it is funny that in the middle I got cheerleading. But what I think my favorite thing about it was co-ed stunning, and then that is partner stunning with you and a flyer, a girl, and and to me that it was just a lot of fun working through the technical aspects of that and getting the form right, and at the end of the day being able to pull off some really cool stunts. So I still enjoy it. If I run into someone, I like to or someone who's a previous flyer. I like to stunt on the beach or something if we're out here. I still like to do it. I still like to flip a little bit. So
Wow.
yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
So it's typically somebody lighter on top of you, and you are the base, and it's almost like you help them stunt and you give them that support, and so you both work as a partner in the cheerleading sequence, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they're the smaller, prettier, you know, person, and then I'm just I just got to be a bit stronger, and I just hold them up for everyone to see. So it's yeah, but I really like it. I like lifting weights, and
Yeah.
I tell this to anyone: like, if you like lifting weights, like you're gonna like lifting people. Like it's addicting. Like it is. You start hitting these stunts.
Oh
And then you just
man,
want to hit more and more of them, and try more and more of them. So I had a blast. I
that's
mean,
crazy.
it's a different realm though, because then you're in
Yeah,
sport. I'd never really been in sport with girls, and then the majority are girls, and then there's only like a few guys. There's probably 4 or 5 of us at max when I was at school, and so there's like 20 girls, and it's there's a lot more emotions there. We'll just say
yeah,
so. You just gotta. So yeah, it's cool because you're still. I mean, you're in a sport where you're still having to give it your all. Like I remember the competition routine was tough. Like after the end of the 2.5 minutes, like you're fried, and we used to run through those like time after time during practice. I remember. So it's like you're giving your all there, but you're doing it with for me, rugby football player, just not used to doing it with girls. So
yeah.
there's just a different aspect to it. You gotta talk about your feelings a little bit, and make sure everyone's squared away in that department. So you try to stay away from the drama. A little comes up, but not too much.
Yeah. So how is it perceived? Is cheerleading perceived? Is a guy being on a cheerleading team perceived as feminine? And how do you tackle that? Like if somebody says something to you about being feminine, and or do you mind if somebody perceives you that way? What's your take?
Yeah, no, it definitely comes off that way, but it never bothered me or anything like that. It doesn't bother me. I like I said, like maybe I might have made fun of them before I joined one, or something like that. I might have thought similarly, but like I tell all like most guys and who are like, you're missing out. Like this is a lot of fun. Like you would really enjoy it. You just be surprised. You'd be surprised. So yeah, there's definitely that connotation with it. But I mean, it's with everything in life. Like things that you're gonna do, things that you like people are always going to have their thought, their initial thoughts, their judgments, whatever. I mean, you can't. At the end of the day, I was just thinking this the other night. I mean, you can't please everyone. You got to do what you're passionate about, what you like and enjoy, and don't let other people. Yeah, don't let other people
Yes,
stop you.
sir.
So.
More power to you. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people talk to you about the cool mullet you carry. What do you respond to them?
Yeah. Most people it's hit or miss, but most guys like it, and then girls are like, "Why are you doing that?" But I love, yeah, but I love it. It's awesome. Business in the front, party in the back, and it just it's fun. It's fun that I'm able to have a cool just something so different. Just something
It definitely makes you
have fun.
stand out. Definitely makes
Yeah,
you stand
definitely.
out.
Yep.
That's awesome, Joe. So you do a lot. Let me come to the second part. You're a civil engineer and you have a job. What does that job entail? And like that seems so totally different than playing rugby for the national team. What is that
Yeah.
job? What is the civil engineering gig? And you have a master's degree in it as well, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, my older brother was an electrical engineer, so I knew I would. I figured I'd want to get into engineering, or I looked into engineering, and then civil kind of was most compatible with me. My job, it's more of a water resources environmental engineer. I'm doing water and wastewater treatment design, or I'm in that field. And my company's been great. So I'm actually on with the same company. When I came out of college, I worked for a year and a half with full time for this company. And then this rugby opportunity came up, and I was like, hey, I really want to give this a go and give this a shot. And they were like, we'll put you on part-time. And I was like, so I've been very grateful for that. My supervisor and my coworkers, they're great to work with. And it's awesome. I'm able to work. I work about probably a day or two a week, on average. Additionally, so right now our schedule's weird, but usually I'm training 4 or 5 days a week, and then in the evenings is actually when I'm doing the work. Right now during quarantine, we still haven't gotten to team trainings yet, but so I can wake up. I wake up and I can check my email and do work earlier, which my coworkers obviously like. But tracing back to my master's, I started that because of the company I was working for at the time, still working for. But they said one of the benefits was paying for some schooling, and I was like, well, I just completed my bachelor's, and I wanted a break, but at the same time, I was like, they'll pay for my schooling. Like, I need to jump on this, and this will be great for my career. And so I did I looked up an online master's. It was online, and I was able to do it while I was working. And then I came out here, and I was able to do it while I was playing rugby. So it took 3.5 years, or it took 3 years. But I just took one class at a time, and I was able to knock it out. So yeah, at one point I was just doing it while working, and then at one point I was working, playing rugby, and doing the masters. But so it was definitely busy, interesting. Playing rugby during the day, training, and you got to be ready for those because we have meetings and we film all our practices and games and whatnot, and so we're doing film review constantly. So at night I have film review. I'm doing my work, and then I'm doing my school work as well. But like I said, I was only taking one class at a time, so that helped. My hours, I'm pretty part-time, so I'm 1 to 2 days a week. So it definitely grind, but yeah, you can but definitely worth it. Glad I got my master's and staying connected in that side of my career, because rugby doesn't last forever. We all know that. As players, or as any athlete knows, the sport doesn't last forever. So you got to be aware of what you're going to do after. And yeah,
that's respectable. I mean, that you sound so motivated. Here's a question: what's the secret to doing all these things and doing them all successfully? I mean, and when you say you're playing rugby, you're playing for the national team, so it's not like any team off the street. How do you do all three at the same time? Like, what's your secret sauce, would you say? What works for you?
Secret sauce. You know what? I think I owe it to a lot of the people around me. I'll say this, I owe my master's to my mother. She really helped out as a motivation factor. Whenever I was struggling through that, because, that was hard to motivate myself to get to. She would just send me texts, help me through it, talk me through it. At one point, she was helping me email my professors about some things, because I had that on the other part. I have to stay in communication with my professors when I'm going out of the country. Because when we go on tour, we leave for a couple weeks at a time. But my secret sauce is just, yeah, just staying motivated, hardworking. When you'd be surprised, the busier you are, sometimes the better. It sounds weird, but sometimes the better you can handle things, because you know what you need to do. You know what needs to get done every day. And if you don't, you're going to get behind, and you don't have, sometimes when you have too much free time, you waste too much time. So, one of the things is just staying busy. Staying busy was good. Staying busy keeps me motivated, keeps me driving. And, I love the grind. I love rugby for the fact that it's a very physical sport, and you got to be in top shape. So you just got to love putting in hard work every day, and working on your conditioning and whatnot. So the same goes for work or school. You gotta love the grind, putting in the hard yards, and know that it's going to pay off.
I love that. I've heard that before, Joe. Actually, there was some experiment they did with college kids, where kids who used to play sports, when they were in season, they're playing the sports that semester, they used to score higher GPAs, as opposed to off season when they had free time and they did not play the sport, their GPAs dropped, which is counterintuitive because you think they have lesser time to study. But I think that when you know you have a certain amount of time and you got to get it done, you get it done and you become more productive, which is counterintuitive. But that makes so much sense. I love that you shared that. And like you said, empty mind is a devil's workshop. So seems like you kept the devil out and let the angel flow within you to handle all the things that you did.
Trying to.
Wow. Civil engineering, you're doing water planning and water resource management. So what's the focus there? Is it to save and conserve water as much as you can and do designs efficiently? What does that entail?
Yeah, I mean that's at the forefront. Whenever you're doing a new project or whatnot, you always want the most efficient, most economic. And that a lot of those are, a lot of the things we got to follow are in the spec book or the specifications that the city provides or something. A lot of the work we do is for the city. I would say right now the more stuff I'm doing is for kind of just construction, new water pipes or new stormwater pipes. Like specifically right now, I'm basically just we have the project, they want to install, this, that, or that, and then I'm just making sure currently that when they go through the construction phase, like what else are they going to run into underground? We have software that we have everything plugged in there, so we know what's under the ground. And then so the contractor comes to us, is like, hey, we want to do this, and then we tell them the best way to go throughout it. I spent some of my time as an inspector when I was working in Columbus, Ohio, and so I was actually on the job site, and that was a great experience for me. And I was able to check on the project status every day by just walking out of the project office and basically just checking the contractors, the construction workers' work, and making sure things were going as smoothly as possible. And you learn a lot when it's more hands-on, it's more right in front of you instead of behind the eyes of a computer, So that was a good experience as well.
Yeah. So you got the in-field experience, out-of-field experience. You're helping save water at the same time you're representing your country for rugby. Joe, what's the scariest moment you faced? Like, were you playing against like some crazy big players in like New Zealand or Australia, South Africa? And like, what's the craziest like player moment you've faced in rugby, would you say?
Honestly, I would probably put that back to my younger years. I mean, nerve-wise, it would be when I got to when I was first got to play for the team. Like that was a big thing. Handling nerves, handling the tension, the stress that comes with it. I think that was the biggest thing. But honestly, like you say that, what comes back to me was a game in my freshman year of rugby, freshman year of high school, where I was playing maybe JV, and so I was a toothpick in high school. So I think I hadn't put on – cheerleading actually helped me put on some muscle, believe it or not, because we lifted a lot. Quite a bit, and I was skinny in high school. But yeah, I played one game right after the next, and these are either 60 or 80-minute games, and so I played, and it was in that second one where I'm playing JV and I'm playing against these juniors, seniors in high school, and I was a freshman, skinny, and we end up winning the game or whatnot. But I remember just playing against some bigger, meaner, nastier guys. But just going through, not being too scared or anything. Just like, gosh, these guys are a lot bigger than me. But as for on the circuit, what we call the circuit, the international series, some of the teams like to hit harder, like your Samoas, your New Zealands, South Africa. Like they really like to smash, and they're just physical, tough games. Fiji, and so you always got to get up for games like those. Whenever you're going against those guys, they're coming out to hit you. They're coming out to smack you in the jaw or whatever. So you got to be able to dish it right back. So.
Wow. What's really crazy for me is how you answered that question. When I asked you what's the scariest moment, I mean, you're a national level player. You face like one of the best national teams in the world. But the moment that you remembered was that of high school. And it's almost like, you don't know in life sometimes. Life prepares you in certain ways when you are going through it and you don't realize that you're being prepared for a much higher level. And that moment of scare where you were the smaller guy, that prepared you to play national level rugby. And that's the moment you remember of being more scarier than the one you're playing on the international scale, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, it is funny. That's it's funny.
Are there any practices you do to enhance your game? And by practices, I mean not physical practices, but mental practices. Do you guys do any sort of visualizations, any sort of meditations to help relieve stress or help perform better? Is there any stuff that you do like that?
Well, we recently just started getting into that, and we have someone we're working with who she mainly helps with breathing exercises. And we've been doing a lot of work on breathing exercises, but yes, some meditation and some things like that. So it's caused some of us to have new routines when we're running out in the field. And so I have a little new thing that I go to kind of get me, I guess, in the zone. Get me in the zone, and we're doing breathing exercises before, and that just kind of calms us, soothes us, and gets us in. But we don't lose kind of the desired pump. It's just like I said, like kind of how she puts it, like puts you in the zone, puts you in the best playing ability that you can be. And so I just have a little thing that kind of, as I'm running out on the pitch, I do real quick, and it also kind of, it's like a trigger basically, and gets me.
Wow.
But so I think those things actually are important. I think that's interesting you asked that question, because I think more and more people are starting to look into that on the sport level and starting to utilize. And we also have an ex-Navy SEAL who works with us, and he helps us through these breathing exercises. And I mean, you want to talk about stress? Like, yeah, we're playing for the national team, but he was in the military where things are life or death. For us, it's win or lose. But so that he's been a lot of help, and he helps us through kind of thinking through situations and how he would do it or how they used to do it in the teams. So it's really cool.
That's amazing. Joe, what kind of diet or lifestyle do you prefer? And is there something that's prescribed by the team? I know vegan diet is becoming very famous and popular for a lot of athletes. Slowly, I see Lionel Messi, he's gone vegan. A few famous cricketers, Lewis Hamilton, they've gone vegan when they get into sport. What's your opinion? And do you think veganism helps?
So I think I can think of one guy on our team who has gone that route, and he praises it. I have a couple cousins who are doing it, and so they're constantly trying to get me to try it more and more. And I've watched some documentaries on it. Obviously, the Netflix The Game Changers one. For me, it's kind of opened my eyes, and just I'm more aware of just eating a lot more vegetables and stuff that will help me feel better and whatnot. Diet-wise, we have access to nutritionists, and it's kind of on the player to use them. We have our S&C coach who kind of monitors us a little bit, and so we eat at the training center. And so the meals they have there are usually pretty healthy. As for me, no, I still eat meats, and it helps me get my protein levels in that I think I need, especially I have trouble keeping weight in season. So I just make sure I'm eating as much as I can, really. But with this new, I'm not new, but with the popularity that veganism has garnered, I've just been more aware of it, and I'm eating more. I'm definitely eating more beans and greens and all the above, and I think it's helped me feel a little bit better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Lastly, are you satisfied with how much the government is paying you to play rugby? How does that? I'm kidding. But how does the payment work? Is it per game? Is it a contract? How does that sort of stuff work when it comes to like the government? You're playing in
Right.
some sense for the country, and the government's sponsoring you.
Right. So, because we're an Olympic sport, we get some support from the U.S. OC, the United States Olympic Committee. We also have our own ways of getting money. We have our own sponsors and whatnot. But for each athlete, yeah, we're on contract. So usually it's contract through the year, through a couple years, maybe through an Olympic cycle, just depending on the person to person. But yeah, the pay is something we're working on. It's still low for definitely for a professional athlete. It's low. I mean, we get by and it works and everything. And some people have to pick up other jobs, and some people are doing schooling so that they can get other jobs, or they're prepared to work after rugby. But so we get our base contract pay, and then if you get selected for a tour, then you get additional pay. And then if you do well, we get bonuses. So performance bonuses, which is quite motivating. So if we do well at a tournament, then we can earn up to X amount per person. So it's extra motivation. So, and, we're always trying to do our best at the tournaments. And so, and yeah, just getting selected, there's 30 of us, there's probably 20, 25 of us on contract out here. And we take 13 to a tournament, to a tour. And there's 5 tours a season, 10 tournaments. So each tour you play in 2 tournaments. And so you're always trying to make the touring squad, be in the top 12 really of the team. And so you go on tour, you get paid a bit extra, and you obviously, you get to represent. Most importantly, you get to represent the country. So that's the biggest thing. So yeah, still working on pay. I think we're heading the right direction, but we still got some years to go before we're probably adequately kind of paid.
Yeah. My last question for you, Joe, is I know you're really a big fan of the sport and you love to get people to try it. What's one way you think people can get more aware of rugby in the US, and how can the sport grow? And what are some things that you do personally to make sure, you help the grow in the sport?
Yeah, so I think this is super important, growing the sport and especially at the youth level, which is going to help our athletes, start at a younger age, and then there's just going to be more experience behind it, and just the eventual outcome will be a lot better. The athletes will be better at the higher level. A lot of our national teams, members didn't start till high school, or some didn't start till college, some didn't start till after college. So yeah, we got all kind of the spectrum here. But yeah, rugby. So the MLR just came out. Which is the Major League Rugby, and there's about 12 teams, and so they're in different cities throughout the U.S. But if you can make it to one of those games, you're gonna love rugby. You're gonna love watching it. Give it a go. There's youth rugby teams or leagues are getting more popular. Give your kids a chance to give it a go and try it out. We have a coaching program here at the center. So with our team, so we send out guys to coach these youth teams around San Diego. So we do that. I'm working on yeah, just giving back where you can, for us is a big thing. But really just, yeah, giving it, trying to get as many people as possible see it and just give it a go. Because once you watch rugby, it's such an entertaining sport because the action never stops. Most people end up loving it. So we're just trying to do our best to get it in front of as many eyes as possible, and then from there everything can just grow.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joe, for that insight into rugby and your life, how you manage being a civil engineer and being a full-time national rugby player at the same time. I mean, kudos to you for all the stuff that you said. And one of the big things that I'm walking away with is the importance of showing up, of just showing up, because your story is truly of how if you love something and you just show up, your life can change and,
Yeah.
stuff can work out. So thanks so much for being an example. Lastly, do you have any final comments or do you have a question for me, Joe?
No, I just want to thank you for doing this. I like how, I haven't had too much opportunity to look at all your work, but I just think it's cool that from our conversation, you're pulling all these life, kind of pieces of advice, like where we can apply it, how we can apply it to life. And so I'm not even realizing I'm saying some of this stuff, and you're just, this, and that's just a great metaphor for life. And you've come in a few times throughout this, so I think that's really cool. It's a great thing to keep in mind, and it just points on the important values you can learn from sport, you can learn from life. I mean anything, but things I learn here, just can't apply it to rugby. I'll be able to apply it post rugby. So it's cool seeing you point those things out. So no, I appreciate you having me on, Naren, and it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Joe. I'll stay in touch. I'll stay updated with your Instagram and see you do all the cool stuff that you do. And all the best to Team USA and your team. All the best to you, brother. Thanks so much for tuning in.